I think when we talk about stress and overwhelm, it's really important for us to recognize that can show up for you in a number of different ways. And, we think of that stress being that emotional overwhelm, really. Mental, emotional stress of feeling like there's too much going on that we can't manage. And that's definitely part of it. And then how does that show up in your body is a really important question to start to acknowledge a little bit more. And you may know and you may not know, but if you start to notice patterns, if you start to pay attention when these things are showing up, it can be really beneficial. So for some people, it's a feeling of like tightness in your chest, like you can't get a deep breath, like you're in a panicked state. For other people, it may show up in their gut. So as a digestive thing, feeling like there's a change in appetite, either, an increased appetite or a decreased appetite, craving certain foods, and then indigestion as well. So nausea oftentimes, changes to bowel movements, that can be really common. IBS as an example, irritable bowel syndrome, is often linked to stress. It can show up in our muscles. We can start to feel really tight and tense, and that can create pain and discomfort in the body. So there's lots of ways that it can show up. And sleep is another one where we might see different sleep patterns. So difficulty falling asleep, or maybe we're so tired that we fall asleep really easily, but then we can't stay asleep and we wake up or having really vivid dreams or things like that. What's really interesting about our body's stress response system is that it's part of our autonomic nervous system, and our autonomic nervous system is exactly that. It's all of the processes within our body that are automatic. And so that is things like our heart's beating, our breathing, it relates to digestion, our immune system, our sex hormones. There's tons of different things. But of all of those automatic features or, functions that are controlled through our autonomic nervous system, which controls our stress response, the one automatic one that we do have control over is our breath. And that is our powerful tool.
Yeah, so as many of you know, that breath is really the gateway to connect to what is happening from the inside of our body to the outside of our body. And it is the quickest tool that you can access to be able to change your stress response. And so the technique that we use to help do this is actually to work with the length of the breath a little bit. And this is a really unique opportunity for you to actually just take a moment for yourself, wherever you are right now, and just notice what's happening with your breath in this exact moment. We're going to do the same. Just take a moment. And what I'd like you to pay a special attention to is how long is your inhale and how long is your exhale. So if you want, you can just count in your mind's eye, how long is that in-breath for you right now in this moment without having to do or change anything? And how long is the exhale in comparison to that? So we do this technique automatically when we're in a state where we are trying to calm ourselves down. So you may notice, I think particularly like if you are crying really hard and you're trying to catch your breath, what do? You usually kind of like your inhale and then the exhale, right? Where there becomes a little bit of a percussive kind of inhale and a longer exhale. So we're talking about that emphasis on the elongation of your exhale. So that technique of making your exhale longer than your inhale has an automatic response into our autonomic nervous system that helps us to downshift or downregulate with our nervous system to help reduce the stress load. And so we do this with like sighing, this kind of thing where it's like a little bit of an automatic response, right? but you actually have control over your breath. So you can tap into that elongated exhale anytime that you are feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And it doesn't necessarily matter how much of a how long the exhale is, simply that it is longer than your inhale, right? So if you are inhaling for a 4 count, say, your exhale is a 5 count or a 6 count, or maybe an 8 or a 10 count, depending on your breath capacity. And so you can start to play with that on your own. We're going to do it together now if you're ready to just join in. So the best way that you can start to tap into that is to just settle yourself. So make sure you feel comfortable and relaxed. If you want, you can close your eyes and just tune into the sound of my voice. I'm going to do that. And again, just observe how long is the inhale? How long is the exhale? And then start to play with the numbers there. See if you can add a little bit longer exhale in. So it might feel like you kind of get to the bottom of the exhale and there's just a little more pressure to go out. And it almost creates a vacuum for the inhale to come back in. And then that in turn starts to elongate the exhale again, dropping back down. See if you can repeat that a few more cycles through. Extending the exhalation. You might feel there is a little bit of muscular contraction that can help with that, help facilitate the exhale. So we can exhale passively, but we can also do it with support from our musculature. Let's take one more moment. If your eyes are closed, just keep them closed for a second and notice how you feel now. So even if you didn't come in feeling stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, notice if you do feel a little calmer, regardless of how you are showing up. And then when you're ready, just gently coming back up to the surface. Okay, this is your quick tool. It is your quickest way to help manage stress and overwhelm. You can do it in the moment. You can do it anywhere you are. And we'd love to hear back from you of how this tool shows up for you. When do you notice it? What do you notice about your breath in general? That observation is an incredible tool for changing your story.